Okay, and we're live. So, uh,
Yay.
so welcome to the second Transportation Equity Chat. I'm Rachel Ruhlen with the Roanoke Valley Transportation Planning Organization, the RVTPO. This is the second in a series of chats about transportation equity. This topic is relevant to the RVTPO right now because we're updating our long range transportation plan. That's a 20-year plan that's updated every 5 years. So 5 years is added on and 5 years rolls off. So you have an opportunity right now to provide input on transportation through our survey. And I'll be posting the survey link in the comments. Please take the survey and share it and encourage your friends and family to take it. Last week, in our first Transportation Equity Chat, historian Jordan Bell set the stage for why public input is so important for transportation equity. He described the urban renewal that happened in Roanoke, where homes, neighborhoods, cemeteries, churches, and schools were replaced with Interstate 581, wider roads, and other developments. This wasn't just in Roanoke, this happened in Roanoke and throughout the nation. But this is why it's so important that citizens take advantage of opportunities for public input today. I'm so happy to have Antwyne Calloway with us tonight, who's going to interview locality staff about public input opportunities at the local level and how that public input is used in decision making. So tonight, we're going to have planning and transportation staff from the City of Roanoke. And I'm going to turn it over to Antwyne to introduce himself, and he'll let the city staff introduce themselves as well, and then we'll be chatting about transportation equity. Go ahead, Antwyne.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate you providing me this opportunity, both you and the Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission, and providing such a much needed forum for having a discussion about transportation and transportation equity. I'd like to start by introducing myself. I'm Antwyne Calloway, currently work for CERCAP Incorporated and sit on numerous city boards, committees, and do various things throughout the community. And I think transportation, all the organizations that I've worked for in the past have really taken a true seriousness in addressing transportation and being a part of making sure that their clients' voices are heard and advocating for transportation and trying to make sure that the clients can participate. So this is a very much needed discussion to have. This evening we have with us two individuals, as Rachel said, with the city planning department, the Roanoke City Planning Department. And I would like to take a moment and let them introduce themselves. And if you can, in 2 minutes, kind of introduce who you are and what your kind of position is with the city, if you don't mind. And I guess both me and Wayne, since we're gentlemen, we'll let Andrea start off first.
Thank you. I'm Andrea Garland. I'm a traffic engineer and I work for the Transportation Division in the City of Roanoke. We operate from the Public Works Division, the Public Works Department. So we are in charge of all operations and maintenance of the transportation network within the city. My particular line of work within the department is to look out for pedestrian and bicycle and complete streets related projects primarily. So I'm always looking at locations where we can improve our accessibility through curb ramps or crosswalks, and also add bicycle accommodations for people who bike around Roanoke. But we oversee several, various levels of projects. We're in charge of maintenance of all your traffic signals, everything that's within the right of way, signs, landscape maintenance, etc. And I'll pass it on to Wayne.
Yeah, hi, I'm Wayne Leftwich. I'm the senior city planner at the City of Roanoke. And one of my big goals at the city is working on long-range planning, neighborhood planning, area plans. So we do a lot of work with the public, trying to get public engagement, to get ideas and create a vision for these different areas so we can create plans to, over the long term, try to achieve those goals. Before I came to the City of Roanoke, I worked in Greenville, South Carolina. and was also a community planner there. So I was working specifically in low to moderate income neighborhoods, working on neighborhood plans, working on housing, affordable housing issues, and had spent a long time in Blacksburg, Virginia. So when I had the opportunity to come to Roanoke, Virginia, felt a little bit like coming home, and very excited to be here. We often get to work in planning with our cohorts and transportation on different projects to try to create better communities within the city of Roanoke.
Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate that, both you and Andrea, for providing the information. The first question I'd like to ask, and just to get started and go on in, is what opportunities do people have to provide public input on transportation plans and projects? And I'll start that question off with you, Wayne.
Yeah, so again, a lot of my projects are sort of big picture. So a big example of that is the city's comprehensive plan, which is our 20-year plan. So we not only look at transportation issues, we look at housing issues, economic development issues, but in creating a plan like that, because it does set the stage for a lot of future planning, we wanted to get, and we have gotten a lot of public input. So we've been working really over 2 years with different attempts to engage the public. We started 2 years ago with a big kickoff with open house meetings, using our libraries for big open house meetings to get information from folks. We then had a working group that focused on specific issues. And then even had an advisory council all the way down to, more and more meetings and intimate discussions on equity, for example. Within our comprehensive plan, interwoven equity was one of our big ideas and one of our newer topics. And so we spent a lot of time focusing on that issue, and it really, we realized quickly it was a big issue, and we added some extra meetings specifically to address equity, and we really got some great dialogue from people. I mean, the public was right there. We thought we were a little ahead of things in bringing up the issue, but the public was ready to talk about it. And now, as we've seen over the last year, these ideas and topic of equity are, right there in the forefront. So I think we started 2 years ago, maybe a little ahead of where most people were, and now we are probably behind. As a matter of fact, City Council has already adopted elements of our plan that we haven't even formally adopted yet. So, but all of that came about because we were able to get a lot of good public input. And even though the plan is not officially adopted yet, we had people in the community talking about some of the things that we were addressing. We were taking their ideas and introducing them to council, and council liked them. And so they started moving on some of those ideas.
Now, I can personally say that I've attended quite a few meetings, and I've seen both yourself and Andrea there at multiple meetings at MODA, and that was in the Melrose Orange Target area. Now, Andrea, this question is for you also. Are there different ways that your department goes about kind of working on transportation projects or giving individuals the opportunity to speak, or are they basically in the same format that Wayne kind of described?
Well, we don't have the luxury of time that Wayne has. No, I mean, the reality is that, so what I mentioned, our department is an operations department and operations and maintenance department. So oftentimes, and I'll just clarify it really quickly, when you see big projects happening at the city, like, for example, the Franklin Road Bridge or the roundabouts at Colonial, those are projects that happen through the capital improvements plan. So those are managed by our engineering department. And so they're often they have bigger budgets and, they go through complete different process. When we looked at on transportation, are usually more like ready to go projects that we can attain during our maintenance season. So most of the time, what I get involved in are projects that we can do during our paving season. And so that is, we know maybe 2 years ahead of time what roads are going to be paved. And then we start looking at, well, what can we do to these corridors to improve accessibility for all users, for people who walk, for people who bike, for people who drive, for people with disabilities. Oh no, we lost Antwyne. But I'll continue talking. So the opportunities are different, but yes, we do try to engage the public as well. And we usually try to go more localized. So where the project is happening, we try to reach out directly that community via engagement, direct engagement with direct mail. We also rely a lot on the neighborhood organizations. So if we're looking at a specific corridor, a specific project, again, that is very, very much quick and happening, we go through the neighborhood organizations and we talk to them about what our vision is or what we're proposing to change, try to get their support. So for like the examples that I might provide in this call, I always seek for the neighborhood organizations and the corridor itself to be on board, at least at the majority level, before we move forward with something. And we really value that. Not only our department, but city manager's office really value that. Nobody wants surprises. Everybody wants to be informed along the way.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Andrea. And I would probably joke that you don't have the time, but we don't have the budget that you have for some of your projects. But even with us, when we try to establish a vision for a community, the neighborhood associations are so important. And to your point, when you're trying to get quick input, it's nice to have those groups that are already organized and talking with one another that can help give you a quick read on the project you're looking at. So it's a great way for people to be engaged, to be involved with their neighborhood associations or other groups in the community. Whenever we deal with issues that go in front of Planning Commission or Board of Zoning Appeals or even the Architectural Review Board, we're asking the applicants to seek input from the neighborhood associations so that they can, get some sense of the buy-in in the community for that project. So that's a very important idea and a good way for people to get involved in really all the things that happen at the city.
Antwyne, we lost you for a minute. Do you want to move on to the next question?
Looks like he's frozen, but I know what questions he's going to be asking, so I'll go ahead and jump in here. So we're just having all kinds of technological difficulties tonight, so I'll have to get this smoothed out for the future ones. But Antwyne was going to next ask you to talk about some examples, or maybe one or two examples of a project, transportation project, that was influenced by public input. And we'd kind of like to hear about an example of a project that was maybe pushed forward or put forward through public input, as well as maybe an example of a project that was substantially changed or even halted through public input.
I guess I probably can give a couple examples. I think so. In general, as I mentioned, one of my passions, or what I look at about transportation projects, is usually look at opportunities during the paving projects. So when a road is going to be repaved, resurfaced, we look at opportunities to change the configuration of the roadway just within the paving. So like basically, painting the lines that go on the roadway in a different way than where they're painted before. So allocate space differently. So a successful project is the Elm Avenue corridor project, which was paved in 2017. And Elm Avenue, it connects basically two neighborhoods to downtown, like very active neighborhoods, Old Southwest and, I guess you can consider Mountain View and Wasena neighborhoods to downtown. And it's a commuter corridor, like it's basically used for connections to downtown. And so traditionally that roadway was striped for having 3 lanes for vehicles. and one lane was actually used as intermittent parking. It was allowed for intermittent parking, but not very many people were parking, probably because of the nature of the roadway, where there's just parking your car on next to two-lane traffic. People might be afraid of getting hit, or the car getting hit. So we looked at it, the opportunity to remove that additional lane, and relocate the space, which basically a travel lane is 10 feet wide, relocate the space for 2 bike lanes, which is each one is 5 feet wide. And the approach we took again, was to engage the public from the beginning before anything was decided, talk to the neighborhood associations, inform everybody in the corridor. Everybody that lived or worked along that corridor received a letter and information about the intention of maybe doing something different. We created a survey. We promoted the survey through many channels of public social media. And it was just a popular project. It received great support, from the neighborhoods, from just general public. We got a lot of survey responses, and people were just very excited about seeing Elm Avenue looked a little different. And the project had a lot of benefits. I actually knew somebody that had a vehicle crash from entering the road from a side street and having to deal with those 3 lanes of traffic, so 3 conflict points, and got sidewiped as he was entering the street. So for drivers, creates a problem. For pedestrians, creates a problem. And there was just simply no space for somebody that wanted to ride a bike along Elm Avenue. So long story short, after maybe 2 interactions of letters, a survey, lots of meetings with neighborhood input, with neighborhood organizations, we received community support. And because we had community support, then internally our department looked at just how to really improve the corridor via other ways, like synchronization of the signals. And so we just improved the corridor all throughout with just kind of a solid plan that today, has proved to be successful and well received. But yeah, that's probably, and it was an example for, we did similar thing with Main Street, which is the next corridor, I guess, south of Elm Avenue, with similar success. Anyway, so that is probably one example of a project that was well received. And I don't know, you want me to jump ahead on something that was not well received, or you want to let Wayne tell his story first?
Yeah, you may want to let Wayne tell his story first. Let's do the good news first.
All right, we'll keep it positive for a little bit longer.
Yes.
I think the first transportation project I think of actually happened right before I started at the City of Roanoke, with some of the improvements on 13th Street, from the Memorial Bridge up towards Salem. And Andrea can probably speak to some of this as well, because she was involved with the Mountain View Neighborhood Association. But that was a target area for us at the City of Roanoke, where we had been focusing our community development dollars in that area. We had done a lot of affordable housing work, a lot of rehab of housing, some new housing, working with Habitat for Humanity. And as we left the area, we wanted a big project. And so it was, a streetscape project, but it included bike lanes, it included street lights, and even places for people to sit. And a lot of that, came from the public input that we received on what should occur there. I don't think initially we were thinking about, some benches for people to sit, but those sort of things got brought up. People were really excited about better lighting in that area. So we were able to do that. So I think that's a really good project. And, just one other project that actually is not local, But when I was working in Greenville, South Carolina, we had a larger park that was going to be developed. And long story short, it was in the middle of two low to moderate income neighborhoods, and there was some history there. This land that was down by the river had been the location of the African American ballpark. So there was a lot of baseball that occurred in that area, and the mills in the area used to have teams, and they were segregated. And so when it came time to put a park there, there had been remaining a ball field there that had kept the name of that African American ballpark. And so when it came time to create a park, of course, the community chimed in and said, hey, well, we want to keep that name. We don't want to lose that name. So whatever you do with the larger park, you have to keep the name. And as those conversations went on and we learned about the history of that area and that part of the community, we quickly realized the importance of that part of town to the unity of the city. And so today they're actually building that park, and they're calling it Unity Park. That was our way to incorporate both the name of the field and the history of the project. So it's Unity Park, and I believe they're going to keep that field with the same name in the park. So I know we're running short on time, so we can move on to the bad apples now.
Well, I mean, I think that's a great example of, and even as we're discussing it, there may not be bad apples. I think at times it's finding the merger, the balance in the merger between, what the community wants and needs and what the city may have planned or may have, envisioned. And I think that leads to the importance of having such a dialogue and a discussion like what we're having about transportation equity, and discussing the fact that these are plans that are not, just made today and done tomorrow. These are plans going forward. And, and we need all residents' input on that in order for it to truly make the impact that it's supposed to for all of our communities, not just one segment of the community, but everyone's community. So I think really, I don't see a negative, because to me, the more community involvement and the more community engagement that we can have, the better it turns out for all of our residents. So that's great. I mean, but if Andrea or yourself would like to take a stab at something that didn't turn out too positive in a minute or a minute and a half, that's great. But I think it's best to, leave it on a positive note and possibly get it back. Now, do either one of you all have anything final that you'd like to say about the website where they might be able to make some input or feedback, or Rachel, do you have that information available?
Sure, you all can send me links. I'll make sure those get posted.
But I wanted to say not so much to talk about a bad experience, but maybe a learning experience. And I don't think I realized that I learned this until very recently, but I have had situations where I have come with ideas to communities like Moda or, other communities of Northwest. And it has happened a couple times where I have come with my idea. Again, this Elm Avenue project, which is it was very well received. You have to understand the context and the community around that neighborhood, right? That corridor. So when I came with this great ideas to MODA or other neighborhood associations in Northwest, they were just not well received at all. And what I have learned, and I think I appreciate what happened, and it has gotten me to this point, is that, we come with this to these communities, and our job is to listen, because there's a lot that we haven't learned from the community. So through the public input that Wayne and the planning department have done, all the time they spend just listening and just learning, and then just, meet them where they are. So maybe Orange Avenue doesn't mean to have for bike lanes, or Melrose Avenue doesn't need to have bike lanes, but maybe we can work on improving sidewalks or improving alleys. So what is it that the community really want and appreciates, and it will value it will increase the trust in our government. So I think that that is what I have learned, and what I think that my approach to community involvement is even more just rich now, because I really want to listen and learn before I come with like great ideas.
That is amazing. And Andrea, I must say, I was there at the meeting, and
Oh yeah, you yell at me.
no, I don't think it was necessarily yell. I might have got a little. My voice may have raised just a little bit, but I can say that I did see your growth from that, and I'm glad that you looked at it as a growing experience, which in turn has, as you said, has enlightened you and even brought you to a better place at looking at how to work with communities. So I appreciate the work that you put in and the work that you've done, because you have listened to the communities. And from that first meeting, I can tell, and I've seen when you've been there, that you really made that change and trying to make sure that you can address what the community truly wants. And I commend you for that. And that was great. So I know we've kind of run over maybe 1 or 2 minutes. What I want to do is pass it off to Rachel. And if she feel like that there's any closing words that you all may have, then that's fine. But if not, I know we have run over. I'd like to thank everyone for participating, both Wayne and Andrea, and also be on the lookout for the next week's meeting that we're having, which we'll be actually talking to the Roanoke County Event staff as well, and passing it back over to Rachel. Thank you all.
Thank you, Antwyne and Wayne and Andrea. Thank you all so much for being part of this and putting up with our technological glitches. And I want to remind all the viewers to take the survey and share the survey and encourage other people to take the survey. And by the way, you three, if you haven't taken the survey yet, be sure to do so as well. All right, well, Antwyne, we'll see you next week, and talk to y'all later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.